So this will be part two of the two witnesses. So there was another thing that popped into my head. If it's in truth, then the Holy Spirit popped it in my head. If it's wrong, then that's, you know, devils that put it inside my head. So as far as the two witnesses potentially being the church, and this is just a theory, but watch this here. How long does the Great Tribulation last? And let me find it. Hang on. Now, it does say Matthew 24 is the most extensive explanation, and we're going to get into that because today, the Great Tribulation lasts 3.5 years. So, hang on. Now, got questions talking about the 1260 days says, the main difference between these two prophecies of Daniel's 2300 days, they said that's already happened. That was Antiochus Epiphanes, and John predicts those of the Antichrist, which is different. So it's, of course, it's in Revelation 11. But I just wanted to see if people said what it was. So again, how it's talking about the church, it says, the court which is without the temple, leave out, measure it not, for it is given unto the Gentiles. And Luke over here speaks of, when ye shall see Jerusalem encompassed with the armies, then know that the desolation thereof is nigh. And so again, the court be without, the temple leave out, measure it not, for it is given unto the Gentiles, and the holy city shall they tread under it 42 months. Now, the main thing I wanted to get to is how it says, when you see this Jerusalem encompassed with the armies, know that the desolation thereof is nigh, abomination of desolation. Let them which are in Judea flee to the mountains. And when does Jesus say that? The same thing. Let them which be in Judea flee to the mountains. When does he say that? Right after the abomination of desolation. When ye therefore see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet, stand in the holy place. Whosoever readeth, let him understand. So when he's telling you, you Jews of the bloodline or non-Jewish bloodline sheep that are actually in Judea, Israel, specific to Judea, when you see this abomination of desolation, which is the Antichrist risen from the dead, you got to worship the image of the beast. It's like Jesus rose from the dead. The Antichrist is going to seemingly have come back from a deadly wound, Zechariah 11:17. And the deadly wound is mentioned in Revelation 13:3, 13:12, 13:14. So it's a deadly, he comes back from the dead. It's a deadly wound that he comes back from. And he says, let them which are on the housetop don't come down to take anything. That's why I tell people the Great Trib is a very short period of time, because when you as you go through this in Luke, Jesus rides it all the way to the end, when you shall see the coming of glory and all that, when he returns, when he comes in the cloud. But then, just like what happens a lot in Daniel and Revelation, goes back and now starts to, retell. It says, and when these things begin to come to pass, which comes back to them when you see the abomination of desolation. As soon as that when you see the Antichrist, he said, when these things come to pass, look up and lift your heads, for your redemption draweth nigh. And I told you, 3.5 days. It tells us. Where does it say? And they of the people and kindreds and tongues and nations shall see their dead bodies 3 days and a half. And after the 3.5 days, the Spirit of God entered into them. They stood up on their feet, and great fear fell upon them which saw them. And as we showed you in the previous study, it's like just like Jesus removes his to where he is on the cloud, it says they ascended up to heaven in a cloud. So again, you have to watch part 1. You have to watch all of part 1 to really get and understand this fully. You cannot try to absorb this without watching the first one. You've got to watch the first on the playlist. And you just click playlist and it says the 2 witnesses, 1 video. It is now going to have 2 videos. And so, I mean, that's key right there, that the Lord's telling you to look up as soon as it begins, because the Great Trib is a very short period of time. Very short period of time. And I need to point out, that's my opinion. It's my best guess. I am not dogmatic about it. If it's my best guess on the study. You can't pluck little literal things out and just go, it says right here this, boom. No, doesn't work like that. So now something might really be occurring for 42 months. And that could be the length of World War III. And it could be a lot of different things. But the fact of the Great Trib, how long does it last? How long is the church persecuted during the Great Tribulation? It says 3.5 days. And you're told to look up as soon as it begins. Just know that it's coming. What else? Now, a lot of people say this is 7 years. And he shall confirm a covenant with many for 1 week. And they say that's 7 years. And I've looked it up in the Greek many times. We can do it again. It could be 7 years, or it could be 7 days. What if it's just 7 days? And in the middle of that 3.5 days, because didn't we just read about where Jesus said 3.5 days? Shall confirm a covenant with many for 1 week. 7, period of 7 days or years. They just got through saying 3.5 days. Look up days. It's G2250. The day used as a natural day. It's 3.5 days. Come all the way down to Revelation and find it. And it's both times 3.5 days are mentioned, 11:9 and 11:11. It's days. So, I mean, that's a big deal, man. That is a big deal. I'm glad I was thrust into this study. And I told my friend, I said, you came at me really hard, but the Lord put it in his heart too. And I was thrown into a study, and it was, he watches UFC and I've watched UFC, and those guys will be at each other's throat. And at the end of the fight, they're shaking hands, hugging, complimenting each other. And yeah, I mean, I'm very focused until after I made these videos. I told him after I made the video, just the big calm came over me. It was like it was over. And this is a fascinating study. I mean, an absolute fascinating study. So yeah, the Great Tribulation. In my opinion, I'm not dogmatic about it. This stuff is way too, but for anybody to come at me and tell me they know I'm wrong, and they're going to point to just a few verses, you got to go big picture. That's why you got to watch this whole study. All right, love y'all. Ask questions.